A money shift from Jacob Reed led to his first loss and first DNF of the season in the GTPs, while Andreas Valenteu soared to another victory in the GTOs last week in Hockenheim. But today is an all-new format, a 70-minute round for the first time in many years. Who will play the strategy game to perfection, and who will wish they'd stayed in their cars in the Daytona 24? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 5, the IMSA iRacing Vintage Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lundgren, and with me in the booth is Craig King. Our director is Christian Deploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park was one of my favorite tracks to drive back when I raced in this series, and to find out why, let's take you down to our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, or as most fans know it, Mosport. This circuit to the northeast of Toronto is a rarity in the world of racing today. Safety standards and the desire for more overtaking opportunities has caused most tracks to alter their layouts over the years. But Mosport is still exactly the same footprint as it was when it was built in 1961. A mere 11 turns, most of which are high-speed sweepers, are dispersed among 2.5 miles, or just shy of 4 kilometers. The only alterations to the turns have been to the runoff areas, but otherwise the radii, camber, and elevation changes are all untouched. Because cars have continued to get faster through the passage of time, it's made this place a fearsome beast to tackle. Clayton Corner is particularly notorious. The blind crest and steep plunge combined with incredibly high speeds to create a punishing combination. Without many heavy braking zones, passing is often difficult. And other than using the slipstream up the Mario Andretti straight, the only other option is usually Moss Corner. This double apex hairpin is named after Sir Sterling Moss for his suggestion to redesign it after he saw its initial layout. While the plateau-like middle portion and critical exit onto the backstretch certainly give it plenty of character, the heavy compression at the bottom of the hill that causes a frighteningly short braking zone makes this one not for the faint of heart. Formula One, USAC, and IMSA have all taken their turns here, but recently NASCAR has joined the fray by holding a round for the Truck Series. Old school fans can rejoice for the enduring popularity of this bastion of untouched tarmac, but any motorsports enthusiast can't help but smile at the thrill most sport continues to provide.
Craig, a beautiful track in the beautiful Canadian countryside, but talk to us about how these cars in IMSA Vintage are going to handle this place today.
Yeah, well, Mosport is the first permanent track in Canada. It's Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, if you want the long name for it. And it is a legendary track in the country, and it might be small, but it is mighty. So let's talk about those cars. It's a pipe dream for the GTP driver today. Lots of elevation changes, mid to high speed corners, but you've got to have warning to these Nissans. The curbs are deadly. Avoid them. And avoid going too wide on corners like Clayton, as the camber will direct you to the nearest tyre barrier. Now for the GTOs, the Nissans, as Adam was saying, they do enjoy this track. But if you like using your brakes, you'll love this track. As when you look at the GTPs, it's basically 4 main braking points. For the GTOs, you're braking everywhere. You want a dangerous point? Eyes on the Moss hairpin, where the difference between keeping your position or losing it on the Andretti straightaway will be on that exit of the Moss hairpin. Multi-class today, Adam, it will be a challenge. The speed difference does provide a mishmash of lines and styles that will trip up some drivers. And as you mentioned, it is a 17-minute race today, so for the first time in forever, that is, that pit lane will be used a lot. We haven't seen it for a while. That entrance is right before the final corner at Whites. That can be a make-or-break moment in the race today.
Absolutely. And another thing that's make or break was Jacob Reed not finishing last race. He got 0 points last race, and that means that he's fallen behind Jack Wells in the GTP Championship. And that's because Jack Wells has finished second in 2 races and fourth in 1 race and then third in another. So very consistent for Jack, has put him above Jacob Reed because of that 0. So consistency needed in the GTPs to win this championship this year. Farron Grau is not too far behind either with only 54 points, and Seamus Power tucked in behind there in 4th position with Cal Young only 1 point behind him with 45. Antti Lapisto, Logan Edwards, Hamilton Barrero Ruiz, Diego Mastretta, and Togo Hisada are all in the fight for that 3rd position with 5 rounds under our belts in the GTPs. Such a tight fight for the podium in the GTPs. What about the GTOs?
Public service announcement. If anyone can be a challenge to Mr. Valenteus, please step forward. 4 races, 4 wins. And with a smaller field today, which we'll go until later, expect him to try another last of first. He is an alien in every aspect. Behind him, Johan van Hicks has been picking up 2 P2s and 2 P3s. That's why he is second. And Andreas Schuster also providing a couple podiums on his own. And then the rest of the field is just still close together. Down from Doug Cloud, you look at Doug Cloud down to Fulton Pollock, not a lot between them. Even down at Javier Del Olmo, Fabian Youngblood, and below them outside the top 10. It really is a case of the top 3 look like they're sorted for the rest of the season. We just don't know who's going to be second or first, or third, I mean, because we definitely know who's going to be first.
Yeah, if you're wondering what point total Valenteus would end up with if he won out the season, it would be 250 because of 2 dropped weeks. So it'd be an even 300 otherwise. But let's go down to our race details. It is round 5 of 12, 70 minutes. Usually the endurance format for IMSA Vintage is 60. It is 70 today, so that's going to put a wrench in some of our drivers' usual plans. Open setups for these drivers with no spare vehicle and a drive-through at 17 incidents, a disqualification at 25. We will likely see those occur, especially with a longer race format and how easy it is to slip off the track here at Mosport.
I gotta be honest, Adam, I have actually fallen off that track before, and I was watching some of the races earlier in the week. Some of the top drivers were just getting caught off with a couple off tracks and almost meeting their end there. There's the Andretti straightaway. Gonna be interesting to see what happens out there today.
Qualifying underway, just over 5 minutes to go in qualifying around here at Mosport. We're taking a look at our GTPs to start with. Very challenging course for all the drivers. The GTPs are able to go more or less flat out, but the GTOs have to be very careful, and that can cause traffic issues around this track for the GTPs. So qualifying, this is the widest the track is going to be for them today.
Yeah, this is the widest it's going to be, and then it gets really tight here as you're watching Mick Claridge. Hello, Mick. I haven't seen you in a GTP for a while as he comes around the Andretti straight right now. The Mario Andretti, if you want to give it its full name. This is a little bit different than what he is used to when it comes to classic racing, but Mick gonna give it what he can and hard into the S's. Very tough here. We'll see some side-by-side around here today, but that classic outside becomes the inside will just switch on. He's already done one lap. This will be a second. It's a very quick lap time around here, and it's going to be a 1:03.5. It doesn't improve for him, but it just goes to show that's a 63-second lap time. That just shows the pace today.
Jack Wells, our new points leader in the GTPs after last round, only set a 10th best qualifying time, with Jacob Reed, second position, in the points, in third position on the tower. Nick Bacano setting a great qualifying time, as well as Seamus Power setting the provisional pole position time in the GTPs. Here is Fabian Jungluth coming around the corner to wrap up his second lap of the day, and it's going to be an 18 flat for him, so a pretty decent time. Mickey Friesen right now has the fastest time in the GTOs with Javier Del Olmo and Andreas Schuster, and now Ove Trangrade, rather, in third position. Second and third, separated by only 13 thousandths.
Yeah, here comes Jack Wells, final corner. Oh, he's got a bit of a slide. He's had to correct the slide, and it isn't going to help him. He gains 4/10. But you've got to feel that little slide. He is still 4/10 slower than Seamus Power. You've got to feel that maybe that little slide just cost him. He could have been up a couple rows extra with that slide. Ferran Grau going to be one of the last GTP to set a lap time here. A bit too wide out of whites there. He'll come across the line. It's going to be a 1:03.012. That's a really good time. And that's about the place we probably would have thought Jack Wells would have been had he not had that slide.
JD Rodriguez here in currently sixth position. His quickest time is 1:17.1. So very quick times out there for these drivers. That puts him about 10th off of the 1:17 flat of Mickey Friesen, who has provisional pole position. So JD has some work to do if he wants to get provisional pole. But interestingly enough, I'm not seeing Valenteus up there at the top of the timing tower. Craig, what do you know about that?
I believe he might be doing a little bit of a last to a first challenge today as JD Rodriguez comes around. Been looking at these numbers, and again, we don't have the updated, and we don't have the updated numbers when it comes to overall stats as JD comes across with his final line. Strength of field in the GTOs today, Adam, 4,675. That is a top 5 overall strength of field ever, and that is a blistering lap time from JD Rodriguez. Wow. 0.016 off Mickey Friesen.
Rodriguez has not had a front row in a while, so this will be interesting if he can hold it. Noah Lundberg, though, he's very quick on qualifying usually as well. Going to cross the line, see whether or not he can beat a 1:16.6. That is a good time. So that puts him... Did that count? I'm not sure if it did.
It counts. It counts. It's pole position.
Up to pole position by a quarter of a second. An impressive time. Josh Brain, who's been very consistent over the last couple of seasons and been improving his speed. We talked about it a lot last season, but Josh Brain currently in provisional 10th position, falling a little bit behind the clock here on his second lap, though.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to improve here. It's a nice, smooth line. Finish line is actually right there. The start line's different. He will improve up a couple places, so that's not too bad. One driver left out there still is just doing some practice laps, so that's going to be all she wrote. All but 2 drivers setting a lap time today.
Absolutely. Very impressive driving from all of the drivers out there to set their qualifying times. A very challenging track as well around this circuit. And we're going to take you down to the grid in a moment. But Craig, talk to me a little bit about what you expect to see around here today, especially at the start.
At the start, it's going to be polite. Drivers, especially in the GTOs, they're going to be working together to just keep that fuel economy. It's not a fuel save race today. Because it's 17 minutes, it's one of the things they wanted to do in this series, Adam. They didn't want the 60-minute races to try and have that issue of a no-stopper, but they'll still be doing some group racing out there today. On that Andretti straightaway, it's a perfect opportunity for both classes to do fuel saving.
Absolutely, and here is the starting grid. Seamus Power on pole position over Nick Makanos by very small margins, just 1/100th of a second. Jacob Reed's going to line up on row 2 next to Antti Lapisto, and then it's Toga Hisada in 5th with Farron Grau in 6th. Timothy Reed, 7th place. Jack Wells lining up at 8th with Arno Iamaki and Brendan Lim rounding out the top 10 for the GTPs. Starting on the next row 6 is going to be AJ Roper next to Laust Olsen, and then Fernando Serrato and Mick Clare is going to round out row 7. All of the GTPs set qualifying times. Logan Edwards starting off in 15th position. 15 GTPs. We'll talk about why after the GTO grid.
Yeah, we'll look at the GTO grid. And it will be Noah Lundberg who will lead them off with probably the biggest gap between all the drivers outside of the back of the field. 2 tenths ahead of Mickey Friesen in qualifying, and then it's close between JD Rodriguez and Javier Del Olmo, 3rd and 4th respectively. Ove Trengerade will be 5th, with Andreas Schuster in 6th. Johan Van Hicks will take an unlucky 7th, and Christoph Lesniak will be right behind him in 8th. Then it's Josh Brain in 9th, and Daniel Kell will be 10th. And just 2 more timed qualifiers. Martin Krajcik will be 11th. Fabian Jungwirth, the last at the time, qualified. Valenteus never set a qualifying time. Jack David Spickett tried to set a qualifying time. 2 invalid laps for him for 14 GTOs. We did indeed on a Daytona weekend split.
Yes, we did. 29 cars out there today. 15 GTPs, 14 GTOs. And that means that the track's going to be fairly sparse. And usually I would say that that's going to be a benefit to the drivers, but it actually might lead to a little bit of complacency. And these GTPs come up on the GTOs so quickly. I don't remember what the delta is around here between the GTP and GTO lap times, but it is one of the largest we have of the season.
Yeah, and it's crazy when you think about the fact that we said it was a 63-second lap around here. And you think, pole position for Seamus Power, 102.638. Pole position for the GTOs, Noah Lundberg, 116.638. So let's just round it off an even 15 seconds, which sounds a lot. It is a lot. That is going to be quite interesting. I'm really curious what gap that means Noah is going to leave between him and the GTP for that gentleman's agreement, because anything bigger than about, what, 5 seconds, Adam, and you're going to be getting traffic almost within the second lap.
Absolutely. And it's important to note that that type of time gap means that the closing speeds are upwards of 30 miles per hour in some corners. If you think about what that's like, if you're standing on a street corner in suburban America and a car goes by speeding by 5 miles per hour, that is the type of speed difference we're talking about. It is not something to sneeze at, and it can catch the GTPs off guard and can catch the GTOs off guard. But the GTOs have the same job that they always do, which is to run their line, and the GTPs need to find their way around them.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, because the last 2 times we've been here, it was no split races. Bigger grid, and it did throw up a lot of chaos because of the fact that the different speeds, not in just terms of the classes, but then also the skill. Again, that's not knocking the lower skill drivers. These are the best of the best. That caught a lot of drivers off. We saw incidents, we saw moments, we saw lapped cars in both classes, and that also caused some issues. So you think about, knock on wood today, this shouldn't be too much of an issue like that. However, a 55 car grid over a 29 car grid, that's a big difference. That may also play some havoc if it comes to any sort of fuel strategy, because if you can save fuel now, you don't have to put too much fuel in later.
Absolutely. And as we get into the final couple of corners here, we're about to see the Porsche pace car pull off into that pit lane, which will be in use today. And then we're going to see the GTPs get started coming around the final corner. Is there any sort of break? No, there's not. They're on the gas immediately, and this is going to bottle up the cars just a little bit going through turn 1, side by side for second position, but the leader out front, free and clear. No contact for the GTPs through turns 1 and 2.
No contact for the GTOs yet through the S's and Whites. They had to start on the exit. The S's, very interesting moment. And in the background, you see Ove Trengere just getting a little bit caught off there, still holding side by side with Javier Del Olmo. He'll come down to Clayton. He will still hold that side by side, and that's going to bunch everyone up behind. They're all single file in the background, but these two just continuing to battle. As you see, GTPs hitting the hairpin straight away. Trengere goes a bit too wide. He's going to lose the position to Van Hicks as they come out of Quebec. They'll hit the Moss chicane, hairpin, very quickly.
And it looks like Brendan Lim decided to start for the pit lane. He's in within the GTOs. That's going to actually split up some of the GTO field early on in this race. Now remember, this race did split, and we're seeing mostly, in fact, almost, I believe entirely, series regulars in this top split. So I would expect that these drivers are going to play it nice and safe and calm for the beginning of this race. We have 70 minutes. Look at that. 1 hour 10 on the clock today. It's the first time we've done that in quite a few years.
Yeah, I can tell you that Brendan Lim actually had the wrong setup on, and I only realized until the very last moment, so he's had to go for that as well. Valenteus already up 3 places. He wasn't last today, he was 13th, so that's not a huge effort, but it just goes to show how good he is. Did this last night, managed to finish about 10 seconds ahead of everyone just to show the pedigree. Less cars out there today, or fewer cars out there today, to be correct with the grammar. You see Trengere just trying to hold on. He just had Brendan Lim go by. Brendan Lim is still trying to get by the rest of the cars, and in fact Brendan Lim has just gone off, as you'll see very quickly on the grass. There he is, trying to come back on. He's not having a good time out there.
No, starting back there means he's definitely not going to be racing any of the other GTPs for a position, at least not until after the pit stop cycle. And I believe it's still only going to be 1 pit stop cycle, even for the GTPs around here today. Am I correct in that, Greg?
From what I understand, it is still just 1. Again, remember, one of the reasons, as I mentioned earlier on, the drivers, they were trying to stretch out these 60-minute races and just trying to see if they could actually get a no-stopper. And it's fun to watch, but the drivers want that risk. They want that tactic. They want the strategy of having a pit stop. And you bring it back, you bring a 70-minute race in instead of trying to cut the fuel tank. You do get that, and I think it's fantastic to see, because you'll still see this pack racing that these GTOs are giving us right now with Trengere in the middle of the free cars, but you won't see it so with much effort, because they would be using it for fuel saving.
Yeah, the choice that the community had was to cut the fuel tanks of both classes for the entire season, or extend this race by 10 minutes, and that is what they chose to do. Laust Olsen, unfortunately, having a moment on lap 3, gets spun around coming out of the hairpin, and so that means that he's going to be at the back of the pack trying to recover for the rest of the day.
Not good for him. 70 minutes, sorry. It's still possible out there to try and make some time up. He is 15 seconds behind the rest, though, but he will have a little bit of good luck out there. Josh Brain losing out to Jack David Spickett, who, again, hasn't had the best of starts out there today. He did not do a legitimate qualifying time, so he is missing out. And in front is Valenteus. You start to see Valenteus really starting to turn the screw tighter right on the back of Lesniak, and we always like to talk about it.
Josh
Brain.
Yeah, gets it loose. He clambered over the curbs just a little bit too hard and got loose and spun out, so he's not going to have to be on his recovery drive for the rest of the day. I would expect Valenteus going for a move here up the inside of Reed, and is he going to get that done? Doesn't looks like he is.
Got it done, Lesniak. As I said, the pedigree of Lesniak, he is a GT2 champion in the Proto GTs. He knows what he does around here, and he also knows when to keep it safe. And this is the sort of race that suits him, this endurance-style race. So we'll look to see what he can do. He is already -1, but Valenteus is +5, and really, you can't really stop that at the moment. So next man up for Valenteus, it's going to be Van Hicks. For Ferenc Grau, he's going to try and make these moves right away. They are on at the traffic on lap 4.
Absolutely. And the GTPs were probably trying to save a little bit of fuel behind Seamus Power up until they reached this pack. But now that they've gone around Josh Brain, they're about to get into the thick of it, because the GTOs are not separated at all. It's, wow, it's 1 second covering the top 10 in the GTOs. So expect these GTPs, who are also the top 5, bundled under a second, just to cut through and start causing some chaos.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to make time up. As you see, Timothy Reed Just a little bit of a twitch there. He's not going to get the best time on the exit. They will be able to get past some of these GTOs, but how many is Valenteus? He looks to go one more position in the picture. He's up to +6. And you now see Grau, Reed, and you can see Jack Wells as well. No overtakes at the moment, but on board, look at what they have to deal with. They still got a few more cars to go by. In fact, they haven't even gone through half the field. That just goes to show just how close it is out there.
Timothy Reed, he decided not to go for the late lunge there, and he gets passed for his troubles, unfortunately. So you can see just how, oh my goodness, that was close. You can see just how just of a thing it is for these GTPs as they're cutting through the traffic. They have to make decisions. And remember, this is a 70-minute race. I keep mentioning that, but you can't take too many risks right now. Otherwise, you're going to DNF before you even reach your pit stop.
Yeah, and this is where you don't want to be like Mickey Friesen right now. Mickey doesn't really want to be battling JD, but JD just takes the position. If they keep up with Noah Lumber, they can work together. That's what they usually like to do in these series, and they will have the rest of the leaders right behind them. The top three's already gone by. Visto is the next man to get past him and almost touching the grass. Toga Hizada should get by as well. We're back with the Timothy Reed battle, though. Can he find a way to get past AJ Roper? AJ may have boxed himself in here. He hasn't boxed himself in. That's a good thing. And now they're just going to get held up. Around they go for the first part of the S's. Then they're going to have to wait to go around the second part of the S's. And now, can they do a late lunge into Whiteton for the second time in a row? Timothy Reed cannot get by.
Ready to back off once again to allow Mickey Friesen some room. Toga Hisada looks like he's lost a position there. Probably got a little bit slow on the front stretch, but now falling in tracks of Farron Grau, and Seamus Power cut through the traffic very well, up 2.5 seconds over Nick Picanos.
Yeah, you know, he was actually a second faster last time, as Mick Claret has had a moment in the background, and we'll see what happened with that. Yeah, Seamus has done really well out there today. It's not Daytona for him, which I know he is near the end of his Daytona race, but this is what he is looking for. Toga Hisada trying to catch up to Farron Grau. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had a slowdown or something that cost him a time. Now he's on the defense with Jack Wells right behind. Very interesting to see Jack in 7th. Just goes to show the pedigree of the field out there today.
And Nick McConnell is also on the defense against Jacob Reed, who's tucked in behind him for 3rd. And look at this battle pack here in the GTOs. This is 5th position on back. Andreas Schuster, Andreas Valenteus, Owen Trangrade, all under a second.
Under a second, and they're almost free. Yeah, well, under a 10th of a second. Yeah, and you think that they'd be able to try and do this. Schuster is going to hold this on the inside, but the inside becomes the outside, and here comes Valenteus. He's going to try and do this. He doesn't have the traction. And around the outside of the middle part of the S's, Schuster's going to hold on to this. There is still a little bit of an overlap, but Valenteus can't do much. And now he can't get behind Schuster because Ove Trengare's there. Compromises his line, and now they just have to wait. Mick with a little knock on the door. Excuse me, can I come through? That may just get everyone suited and booted back into position, and it does. But wide goes Schuster, and we talked about the camber. That allows Valenteus to try and hold this, but still, they hold side by side, and this is good, but at the same time, you're losing a lot of time doing this.
This is very experienced drivers duking it out for these positions, and they're having the time of their lives. But like you said, they're losing time by running side by side like this. They have fallen back of the leaders. They've lost a second just in that battle that we watched from the front straight on alone. AJ Roper trying to put some pressure now on to the driver up ahead, trying to, lost a little bit of traction there on the exit, now under pressure from behind.
Yeah, we saw that twitch, and that twitch almost cost him. It almost cost him the race, even. That would have been it. We're looking at some of the replays here. Just a little tap there. That's what happened to Mick. Got a bit too close to one of the cars. Not a lot of damage, thankfully, for him. And AJ Roper, he's not looking for damage. He's looking to provide emotional damage out there today as he tries to make an overtake here. Valenteus now up, overtaking Andreas Schuster. We just missed that there, but it was at Whites, and Brendan Lim continues to come on by. And that now means Valenteus is up to 5th, but he's 3 seconds behind Del Olmo.
Yeah, they lost another second having that battle. Here is Kraytrig trying to make a move now. And through turn 1, can't quite get it done. It's going to come back to the inside here on the number 12 machine. Here we take a look at it. Kraytrig finally getting that move done there on the inside. And this battle, 3 cars wide. This is for the back of the pack in the GTOs.
Back of the pack, but the points still matter out there today, Adam. And remember, because it's 2 splits, this is going to be a big haul for any of these drivers. Because even if you get a win like this, a position like this, that would equate to about a P3 in the second split. So it is very important when it comes to the point standing. Really going to have to use it. And you think Martin Krajicek is one of the lowest I-rating drivers out there in the field. You wouldn't think it being a 3K driver, but that just goes to show how strong it is today.
No, I wouldn't have made top split.
No, not even me.
So Mickey Friesen, we're riding on board with him as he's trying to battle with JD Rodriguez for that second position. You can say Noah Lundberg up the road. They're about to catch up to a lapped GTO as well. Looking at the back of JD Rodriguez at Friesen. Friesen running with that shifter that is not miles away, as we once stated. It was a illusion of the camera, but now we're seeing him with a new camera position battling it out with JD Rodriguez for second.
Not just a new camera position, it is also a new shifter position. He admitted that after all the little the jokes and everything, he was able to get a little bit of room. And I do know from yesterday, he put in some time today just to find a couple extra tenths, which is oh so vital in what is basically a 77-second lap for the Audi. Got to be really tough for him as well. Jacob Reed trying to make it tough on Mecanos. We haven't seen Mecanos a lot around here, but he has a very tough cookie right behind him, does Nicholas. It's Jacob Reed. It's a champion on iRacing. That is never something easy to try to overtake.
And here's Ove Trengrade once again battling it out with Andreas Schuster. Schuster up the inside, pushes Trengrade just a little bit wide. They got to worry about, well, I was going to say they got to worry about Fabian Newbook, but he's actually 5 seconds behind. He's a ways behind them. So, yeah, these three battling it out, and there is the battle for Nick Mecanos and Jacob Reed. And look at that, Trengrade going for the move, and Mecanos going for the move. He's going to pinch out Reed, who has to go around the outside of them. A little bit of dirt kicked up, but he doesn't lose too much time in the GTP battle.
No, dirt kicked up, not gravel kicked up, so you won't get any gravel thrown onto the track, which is handy. A little bit of grass, but no one's too worried about that. Mixed day, well, it's, oh, no, Mick, no. Oh, I can say that. I do feel sorry for him. We've all been there. It's unlucky, and we've all been here when you get traffic like this, as Ove Trengrade just looks for a way through. He wants to look for the GTP to make a move. It's worked. Schuster's gone wide. He's held it very well. They're going to bump and grind together, and they're going to go side by side down the Andretti straight away.
Yeah, that was Toga Hasada and Jack Wells who were going by, battling it out with the GTOs, and here comes a couple of other drivers. Look at the chaos that we have on the Andretti straight, or that's what they call it. It's not very straight, and it can cause some little bit of issues with the GTP going off track there, trying to go around the outside. Ove Traeger is going to try and stick it on the inside. Is he going to finally get this job done? The answer is yes. He closes the door and finally makes the pass for sixth.
Gotta be honest though, really nice save from Schuster there, because he went off there. And if you go off at the Moss hairpin, it's almost like a double right-hander and more than a hairpin. And you go up, and then you've got a lot of runoff, and man, that is very tight there. A lot of runoff. You go too high, it just straightens up and levels off, and you can run off, and it almost just uncambers itself. So he was able to just keep that together, and then keep it together again when you've got those GTPs coming on by.
I gotta say though, props to both the GTPs and the GTOs in that scenario. The GTOs just drove their line, and the GTPs weaved their way through, and were able to find their way through without disrupting the GTO line. Look at this, Jack Wells make the move on Hasada, because Hasada makes a mistake through the hairpin. Here's Les Olson trying to make his recovery try. He's currently duking it out in the backfield, and here's Timothy Reed trying to make a pass.
No, Timothy Reed just lost a couple positions. He went a bit wide at the Moss hairpin, and we were just looking with Schuster. And you look at the traffic as you come down the Andretti straightaway. And this is very important. Mickey Friesen now trying to defend. You can see Sorato trying to make some moves. Everything's going to happen around this area as Laus continues his little battle with Logan Edwards. Everything really will come to a head on that straightaway. It really is the nature of this track, and it just gives it its character that you just have that quote-unquote straight, really providing the best opportunity for overtakes.
Now, this battle for 11th position is absolutely spicy in the GTOs. Fabian Newbook trying to duke it out here, get that 11th spot away, and nothing doing it this time around, but these three are going to continue to battle all day. We're under an hour to go now, almost 55 minutes to go in this race, and we're definitely going to have pit stops from all the classes.
Yeah, and I talk about like the drivers looking at trying to, you know, catch a driver off by like using them to fuel save or something. No, if I'm a Lesniak here, I'm gonna undercut. I'm gonna pit early. I'm gonna see if that helps me, because this really, it will help you in terms of track position. Are you gonna lose a lot of fuel time here? Maybe, maybe not. For an idea, Mickey Friesen last night, he went a few laps earlier than the rest of the field. Javier Del Olmo picked 5 seconds over him, roughly 5 seconds. So it's risk reward if you want to go off the norm and try and make an early pit stop. But it could work if you're in a little pack like these three are.
What I can't believe is that Valenteus might do last to first before we even hit the pit stops. He's up to 4th position already. And look at this battle on screen. Martin Krajcik trying to hang on to these positions, trying to make 11th place stick. The number 28 machine on the outside now, as he's got Olesniak and Jungbluth trying to duke it out behind him. This three-way battle, tight as you said, but I believe in the pit stops, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, they get free tires while fueling.
Yeah, I think at about 30 liters, 20 liters, one or the other, you do have a ability to make a free tire change, and these drivers will be using that today. Again, because it's 17 minutes, there is so much time out there. Good little double overtake there from Olesniak, and back on board with Mickey Friesen as he just continues on this little battle. Now he has to hold off Valenteus, and he tried it yesterday. It didn't work for him. He's got Javier Del Olmo behind him as well. So if he lets Valenteus by, Mickey's going to have to make sure he does it cleanly and does not let Javier come by him as well. This is going to be defended, though, because they are racers at the end of the day. They will lose a bit of time to JD Rodriguez up ahead, but Mickey realizes it is all for naught. He's going to just hold on, and now he's on the defense against Del Olmo.
That was interesting. He definitely lifted there a little bit, and I believe that he's going to try and follow Valenteus up to JD Rodriguez, who's tucked in behind Noah Lundberg. They're about 2.5 seconds down off of those drivers. As we go to this next shot, will have just gone by. Here comes, I believe it is Brendan Lim again, streaking by these drivers. So GTP traffic coming through again.
Coming through once again, and to be fair, we thought if we had a single split, you wouldn't see a clean bit of track out there today. It would just be traffic everywhere. Even with 29 drivers, it's still a little bit like that out there today. The Andretti straightaway is probably the only place with no drivers on the track right now, but the rest of the track is very populated. And even though the groups that the GTOs have, you're still going to get a little bit of a splatter of lap traffic. And for drivers like these drivers, Jacob Reed and Makanos, don't really want to be seeing that today. And I wonder if Jacob's just waiting for the pit stops now.
Maybe he's saving fuel, but I know that he has better pace than Nick Makanos, and they're letting Seamus Power get away to the tune of 6 seconds. And that's not something that you can regain in the pits very easily, 6 seconds. So he may be waiting for the pit stops, but that's still a ways away. I'm guessing probably about 15 minutes away for these GTPs unless they want to undercut. So I don't know about this strategy. I think Reed should try and get past Makanos and try and close that gap to Power just a little bit as we take a look at JD Rodriguez battling it out with Noah Lundberg for the lead of the GTOs. This lead quite a bit closer.
Yeah, but how long will this lead be? Because Valenteus is 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds basically behind these two drivers. When does he say go? He was a tenth faster than these guys last time by. No, you see Seamus Power just sliding on by as well. Just splits them in the middle. It won't be long until they see that Valenteus car, that number one, that 9,176 iRating driver is so close behind them. I know. I swear it's gone up since the last time we were here by a substantial number.
No, I mean, Valenteus has earned that, to be honest with you. Like, sometimes, I mean, every driver who gets that high in iRating has earned it, but it's been amazing to watch him just absolutely dominate this series. And once again, if anyone thinks that they can challenge this man, he's doing a last to first challenge in a 70-minute race today. He's done a last to first challenge in 40-minute races and gotten it done. He hasn't lost a race this season, and he only lost one race last season. That was a goose egg. That was because he DNF'd. So if you think you have what it takes to challenge Valenteus, we do invite you to come and play in this dangerous game.
And it is one of the toughest cars to drive on the sim. And that's not trying to put people off. That is actually the challenge of the car. That's the thrill of the car.
Yes.
You're literally rubbing your belly and patting your head at the same time when you drive these cars, with the flipping and the downshifting with gears you have to do. It's fantastic. If you saw some tire marks on the grass there at Clayton, I can confirm Ihimaki had a moment there, lost the car, and almost collected the side of Martin Krajicek. We're going to see it right now. Here he comes. I think he just misjudged the speed difference there. He did, and just hit that curb. That's a bump you never expect to see.
And that's a car that gets absolutely demolished on the tire barriers. So, yeah, just getting off track. He thought it was flattened there, but it was actually a little bit of a bump before an access road, and that sent him off. Here's JD Rodriguez taking a look to the outside of Noah Lundberg there, and wow, okay. That was definitely not the let the GTO take the line kind of situation there.
I mean, the S's need another chicane, don't they? You know, the S's need another S, and I think that's what Jack was doing, giving himself a little bit of time. Well, Jack is trying to catch up to Ferran Grau, 3.5 seconds, and to be fair, he was 9/10 last time by, so maybe that is helping him out there today. Timothy Reed now trying to make some time up. They're going to go free wide, just breaking down into Clayton with AJ Roper in front, and Sorato had to wait. They're going to have this little battle, and it's a really tough battle. More cars. They're going to hit the leaders of the GTOs right now in Lundberg and JD Rodriguez. They can do it on the exit. They don't have to start looking. They're going to compromise Noah Lundberg's move coming down into Moss. Well, that's fine. They all get through, but keep your eyes on what happens to Lundberg now, because that may have just compromised his entrance. What's that going to do for his exit?
And also, Jacob Reed has lost all of his time to Nick Lekanos. He's now 6 seconds back and in the clutches of Antti Lepisto and Ferran Grau, like you said. So I think that something very bad happened to him. Let's take a look. Jacob Reed, oh my goodness, that car very loose. And he gets it to the grass. And that was just on his own. So losing all that time and now in a 3-way fight for third.
Yeah, back in a freeway fight. I did wonder, I wonder if it was just a glitch on my timing tower, but no, that definitely did happen. These two continue, or these three really continue to fight. By the way, that car they went free wide going on the crest of the hill last time here, that was Valenteus. Just casually just split the 9K driver free wide, why don't you? And I don't think he was very happy about it, but such is the nature when you're really got the vision right now, and you know it yourself, Adam, you're fighting a car in front of you. Sometimes you do forget you've got other battles happening out there. That's what happened for these drivers, but it keeps on rolling, and a very good exit, very smooth for Reed. Roper get a decent one as well, but I think Reed may have this.
Going to take a look, and where's the defense going to be? The defense is going to be on the inside, which becomes the outside for the first chicane. So this is going to be very interesting for the S's, and it's going to be Timothy Reed who easily takes that position. No real opportunity for defense there. Like you said, that exit was beautiful, and that's the kind of exit that you need to get if you're going to make a pass down the Andretti straightaway.
Well, smooth is fast, and you could just see the rear just start to kick a little bit when you were looking at AJ Roper's car there, and you just had to then pay attention to what Timothy did, because if he followed the same line, you probably wouldn't have seen anything there. Andreas Schuster, he's trying to look for a move on Ove Trengaray. No Doug Cloud here today, and we talk about the pedigree of defense that Doug puts up here. I think Ove might be doing the same sort of defending around here today, because Schuster's a top driver, and he's struggling to get past Trengaray.
Ove won't shut the door on you in the same way that Doug will, but Ove will make sure that he's maximizing his corner exits to try and make sure that you don't get an opportunity to battle with him. I've raced against Ove Trengaray back when I was in the series, and he's an extremely good defender in pure technicality alone. So it's very hard to get an opportunity to even make a move on him. You don't even get to battle the man because he masters his exits. So Andreas Schuster, even if he's got better raw pace, he's not going to be able to do anything because Ovi's going to be focusing on powering out of that exit.
And what's interesting as well, Van Hicks right behind in 8th. This is the middle of the field we're talking about. And we're talking about two former champions. In fact, the defending champion when you look at Van Hicks. And they are not near the front. just because of this pace. It is so tough in this battle out there today that they realize that these points are going to be vital, but because it's so early in the season, they may just have to use this just as a safety net if they can't get any more points with the drop weeks. In fact, remember, 2 worse results count as drop weeks in this series, and we have seen that be very crucial out here. Remember the gap that Mickey Friesen had. He had 40 points over Van Hicks. You take the drop weeks away, though, there was nothing between them.
Jacob Reed, Angelo Pizzo, and Farron Grau battling for the 3rd position as they go past the number 17 machine in the GTO class. And Farron Grau on the back of this train. Jacob Reed starting to tow these guys a little bit forward, but it's still 6 seconds between Jacob Reed and Nick McComas. He has not recovered that time at all since he lost it going on the straightaway there. So Farron Grau there, we see him again tucked into this battle. Such a challenge for these drivers. Like our report, Valentinus is starting to make headway into JD Rodriguez. It was a little bit, it took a little bit longer. It was about 3 or 4 laps that Valentinus was not gaining time on the 2 front runners, but now starting to do so. It's under 2 seconds.
Under 2 seconds, yeah. He just took about 3/10 off the drivers last time, and that's a big deal on a track like this, as we talked about how short it is. So use the little bit of chipping away. We're at 45 minutes. We're not even at the length of a normal IMSA vintage race out there today, and they've been going for almost 30 minutes, and you would not think it. That is quite a bit of endurance out there for any driver. And again, we talk about what these cars are like with the blipping Mick Claridge. Oh my word, Mick Claridge almost just went into the back of our GTO lead. Sorry to say that, if we're watching Van Hick come on by. That could have been an issue. Talking about the endurance, Adam, that's another part of the endurance. You have to keep your eyes open to make sure no one makes a mistake.
Absolutely. And one of the things that doesn't get talked about that much in when you do iRacing, and we talk about the endurance, but we have a lot of folks viewing for the first time this weekend because of the Daytona 24. I know that we had the official esports IMSA series, but when you jump into the car for the first time in iRacing, there's an adrenaline spike like nothing else when you line up on that grid. There's no assists to help you line up on the grid. There's no assists to help you start the race. Nothing's going to stop you from jumping early. Nothing's going to stop you from leaving late. And there's something about just the full control that you have over the car that absolutely spikes your adrenaline. And it can be really hard to get that under control over the course of the race, Craig.
It can. That is so tough. On a sprint race, you're going to be okay. But on a race like this, it just gets a little bit tough. And that's one nature, again. We talked about the bigger field out here today, and we could have had a bigger field. You get a field like that, and you have the ability to be racing more. This is more of a strategy, a game of chess right now with some of these drivers. So it really just depends on how you want to take the race and how you want to drive.
Absolutely. So closing in on 42 minutes to go. Pit stops will start to be a consideration for these drivers. Let's take a look at this moment with Mick Claridge, Craig.
Again, I think he's just taking a bit too much speed and then not realizing the speed difference. He gets onto the brakes, loses the car a little bit, and he almost went into the back there of Noah Lundberg. He tried to split them. That's not a corner you can split. Usually there are some sweeping corners you can do a little bit of a split in the middle. Just was not the place to go for a move there, and unfortunately it did cost him, and he has decided to call it a day out there. Our second retiree, and it might be our third as well, as Logan Edwards is in the pits. Almost took out Martin Krajcik as we're watching Noah Lundberg and JD Rodriguez come around the final few corners.
Lundberg hit the beginning of the curb on the second S, which actually upset the car and spit him out a little bit wide. That is allowing JD Rodriguez to put a ton of pressure onto Lundberg. He's got nowhere to go because this left-hander, you have zero opportunity to try and make a pass through this corner unless the driver ahead makes a mistake just because of the nature. Oh, and there's Lars Olsen, who's going to try and go on the outside. Noah Lundberg was trying to open up the corner to get the best line, and that's actually going to pinch him off just a little bit. JD Rodriguez taking the shorter line through the corner to try and set up better for this left-hander. These two drivers absolutely duking out the front of the field, and the gap still at about 1.8 seconds down to Valentinus.
Yeah, because on this track as well, traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. The sign I like to say, the saying I like to say. On this track, though, a GTP can really cost the GTO's time out here today. So Valenteus has been matching these two drivers at the moment. That's what we talked about, chipping away. And you can see on the rear camera, maybe a move for JD if he was in any other car. If you've never driven these Audis, they're not really cars you can dive in with late braking like a prototype or like a modern day GT3. You have to wait a little bit here, and that's what he's doing. He's having to wait for the opportunity. You need the run to almost get level before the end of the Andretti straightaway to look for that type of move. Not going to work for him, and they've lost 3 to 4 tenths on Valenteus. That gap, there he is 1.5.
Yeah, this car, the Audi GTO, the Quattro of this era, had just as small of a smaller splitter than the modern NASCAR machines do. And so that means that there's no front aerodynamics as we watch Farron Grau trying to battle it out with Anti Lepisto. Can't get that move done this time around the outside.
Nope, decided against it. The S is really tough out there, and they've managed to pull a second, 2 seconds on Jack Wells. So why be fighting now when you can just keep pulling away and try and catch up to Jacob Reed, who, remember he had that moment? Yeah, he's managed to pull away just a little bit from these guys, so he's able to just fight on. But these two will look for an opportunity on the straight to really make that move. The more time they lose here, the more issues they've got. And they gained 3 tenths over Lepisto last time, and through the traffic, they do fine. Craytrick is just going to hold up Grau, a little bit of a bookmark and a little bit of a lock. That's going to cost Farron only a few tenths, but now he can't get on the throttle in time as Lepisto can. That is going to actually cost him more than just a few tenths now.
Yeah, he'll probably lose about half a second just on that straightaway alone. Let's take a look at Fabian Jungbluth here, who makes a dodge on a massively destroyed GTP. How on earth did that happen? Fortunately for him, no damage collected, and he's still running, but my goodness, that was a moment that puts your heart in your mouth. Those are the kind of moments that can end your day.
It ended Logan Edwards' day. That was the man that towed, and I think he's still going to try to see if he can finish the race, but he's getting some repaired. Took a bit too much curb. You see that curb on the exit of turn 1? Took a bit too much of the curb there, and he 50-50 grinded it, as they say, Tony Hawk skater style. He was unable to. Here it is again. We'll just see, you can run this curb. You can't run it that much. And as it just raises up, and oh my word. Oh my, how did he avoid that? Not only did he avoid that, he misses the wall. He slides on the grass. That could have just been chaos. And if he actually hit it a bit too front and hit the barrier, he could have ricocheted back and taken more drivers out. Real good driving there.
Yeah, beautiful car control from Fabian Jungbluth to hang on to that. And look at this. It is now a 3-way fight for the lead, and Valenteus has made his way to the front. These two drivers have held him off on raw pace for quite a while, but unfortunately for them, the champion has arrived, and unfortunately for Brendan Lim, that door was always going to close on the outside.
Yeah, it wasn't the best of places, and he's making sure he doesn't get on the grass here. He doesn't. Timothy Reed's having a little battle as well. And Timothy's just trying to find some time out there in 8th place, and that is Togo Husada with him. Can't make the move. No moves yet here from the GTO driver, but you start to see Valenteus. He's in his groove. He's got his headphones on. He's just doing a little bop while he's on the treadmill. That is how much of control he is in right now.
Absolutely. A good exit for Valenteus. A good exit for JD Rodriguez as well. Valenteus, though, has tons of straight line speed, and we've seen it multiple times on the Andretti hairpin, how he can pull on drivers. And he's even doing so on JD Rodriguez, who's been very quick tucked in behind Noah Lundberg as well. But look at that. Lots of lift and coast for Valenteus tucked in behind these leaders.
Now, he knows you can't zero stop this race. I mean, he would still try. He's that much of a crazy man to try. But he also realizes he doesn't want to get too close to these two in front. Getting too close and they make a mistake, you're in the line as well. So you'll be in the line of fire. So he just wants to take his time, make his way downtown, and just hopefully wait for the opportunities. And this is really what he wants to do right now. He's probably in the best seat possible, because leading's going to be a bit of an issue as another car almost cuts the grass, and Shaq Wells right around the outside there. That is the corner they're going to have to wait for. I can report 3 cars now have gone into the pits for their scheduled pit stop in the GTPs. Only 2 in the GTOs.
A second earlier on lifting off before braking, and then a heartbeat later before you put on the gas is going to save you a lot of fuel around here in these GTOs. And with the draft that Valenteus has up to the leaders, he's not losing any time or any opportunity at winning this race by saving fuel at this stage. We're almost to halfway. 35 minutes will be halfway on this race. These drivers all still going strong. We know that they can run sometimes as much as 60 minutes, but I haven't seen a lot of fuel saving going on around this track by any of the drivers today. I expect them to be on a fairly aggressive race strategy today.
Yeah, and why not? Why not? Especially when you've got this few drivers, you can't really rely on the traffic to help you with fuel saving. You're just going to have to go. AJ Roper was like, I'll wait a moment to make this move. Go around the outside of turn 1, and he's going to have to go back to the inside. Very smart driving, though. That will hold up JD and Valenteus straight away, but straight on the braking. Rodriguez really good down there at Clayton. Holds off, but here comes some other cars coming by. Cerato and Hesada just getting caught beside them. And free wide on the exit there at Quebec. It's going to be free wide coming in to Moss. No, that is Cerato waiting as well. He's going to have to wait. That's going to hold up some of the drivers. Real good traffic avoidance there and traffic management from both drivers. But all of a sudden, Hesada, he is on the back foot.
And when you're saving fuel, like Valenteus, you see those drivers coming, and you stick to your line, but you just lift off just a little bit and let them do their crazy things ahead of you. Let the other drivers get inconvenienced while you're saving fuel. And here's Cerato making that move. Finally is going to get it done, moving himself up to 6th position, up ahead of Toga Hesada.
That looked to me almost like Hesada just accepted he didn't have the speed, realizes the S's are like they are, just decided not worth my time. Junior Rodriguez, it's always worth his time as well. Solson comes by just to overtake the two of them, but the door open. Is that an opportunity? No. I don't want to see anyone try and make an overtake down into Clayton. That's such a risky move. You'd have to get it done really early and cannot do that. Valenteus is holding back a bit too much. He's still in that slipstream range, but it's now half a second. That's not a bad thing. I wonder if he is trying to now stretch it out a little bit. Stretch it out, maybe just get another lap of clear driving on his own.
Absolutely. So we're seeing these three drivers tucked in under one another underneath a second. Mickey Friesen's 3 seconds back, and he hasn't been able to close that gap. Jacob Reed sets the fastest lap of the race. Seamus Power had held that crown ever since lap 3. He set another fastest lap just a couple of minutes ago, but now Jacob Reed takes that command. Noah Lundberg, trying to be defensive here, is able to do so. Holds off JD Rodriguez. Valenteus lifting a little early once again, coming into the S's.
Yeah, and I want to just keep my eyes on the timing tower right here, because it'll be interesting to see what time these guys are doing, because Valenteus was slower than Mickey Friesen in 4th last time by. So it'll be interesting to see what times they're doing right now. In fact, Mickey Friesen just pitted, so let's just ignore that. But it was a 16.7, a 16.8, and a 16.4 respectively. Del Olmo a 16.8. So the rest of the field are not catching these three. They're matching. And now that is not a good thing if they want to look at trying to just cause an upset later on in the race. But it is interesting once again. I said this, he did this earlier in the week. Mickey Friesen pitting early. So Jack David Spickett and Josh Brain are the only pit stop drivers in the GTOs, and now Mickey Friesen makes that a trio.
Well, that's the crazy thing about Valenteus, is that this is probably 2 to 3 tenths off of his normal race pace, what he's doing behind these leaders, and no one's catching these three up at the front of the field. And that just shows you the caliber of driver that Valenteus is that he can fuel save behind these guys and still run the fastest pace of anyone else in the race. And it's just impressive. Here comes JD Rodriguez trying to take another look at Noah Lundberg. Once again, it doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen. And I don't think we should expect it to happen. Gets the run, but doesn't get the run to get parity and side by side. If this was anyone else in the race, I'd be thinking, well, maybe if I'm Valenteus, I'd come from an early pit stop. You know, just try and break this. I'll be able to get ahead of them. But when they're matching, and again, 16.5 for Lumbo, fastest time of the race for him. 16.5 for Rodriguez. 16.6 for Valenteus. Then behind them, Del Olmo was 17.1. Why do you need to push right now? And in fact, Valenteus, he could undercut, but he doesn't want to. He knows he'll catch them anyway.
Absolutely. Seamus Power up at the front of the GTP field. He could also decide to feel safe. He's got 11 seconds to Nick Buchanos, has not been able to close that gap. Jacob Reed had the fastest lap a couple laps ago, but now has lost another second to Nick Buchanos just recently. So it looks like the traffic is starting to play into the hands of the leaders of both classes at this stage in the race. There's still a nice battle going on for 6th position in the GTOs as well between Andreas Schuster and Joram van Hicks as well. They're still nose to tail at this stage in the race, but things have broken up as we start to see the pit stops happening in both classes.
Yeah, and with a pit stop cone to cone can be anything from 50 to 60 seconds in the GTPs, and it's about 35 to 40 seconds in the GTOs. It just goes to show that you make a pit stop around here and you might be losing a lap, and such as the nature. Timothy Reed, Anthony Kisto, and AJ Roper, the 3 pit stop drivers out there today so far, and as you can see on the timing tower, they're a lap and 2 laps down respectively. So it just goes to say that if you make a pit stop around here, you're gonna have to be careful where you do it, just due to the nature of the time of the space here. These 3, they don't have to worry too much out there today. It is the closest battle out there on track. And maybe just another mistake there from Lundberg with the traffic going around doesn't allow Rodriguez to make a move, though.
You can see how far back Valenteus is at this point. He clearly has a fuel number in mind, and he's trying to hit it. That makes me interested to see what his strategy is. Is he going to go as far as he possibly can? Is he going to wait for these 2 to peel off and then absolutely book it? Old F1 pit strategy where you save, and then when your competitor goes in, you do your fastest laps of the race. JD Rodriguez has the best run he's had in a while, but once again, nowhere to go with it. The S is not a great place to pass for the GTOs unless you've got an excellent run.
And 2 more cars into the pits. Brendan Lim and Seamus Power. It is indeed. There is Seamus in the picture-in-picture. He is taking a pit stop. You got 11 seconds on everyone. Why not? I think you can afford it. So going to be interesting to see where he comes out when it comes to traffic there. I'll keep my eyes on that, because if you can get a really good place in traffic, you're going to be saving time as well. So that might be his strategy out there today. Mistake from Rodriguez there, trying to go a bit too close to Lundberg. Doesn't affect him, but you got to be careful. I know there's 28 minutes left. We're still racing right now. You just want to be careful not to be a bit too close, as you still see picture-in-picture now. That battle is going on. Seamus Power came out in 8th, just for the record, and he came out with not a soul around him.
Lundberg gets pushed wide by a passing GTP. That's going to allow JD Rodriguez to streak it to the lead. Here comes Valenteus to try and make a move on Lundberg, but he's going to go wide and try and allow Lundberg back in front, but he doesn't want to lift. Neither of them want to lose JD Rodriguez in the draft. But I think it's going to be Valenteus who's going to slot in behind Lundberg once again, unless he's laying on the brakes of the SS. Nope, thinks better of it. He's going to continue to play his strategy.
Yeah, and almost just came together there. That was Logan Edwards, and now Hosada and Olsen coming by. One was AJ Roper, now Hosada, and then it's going to be Lars Olsen behind them, and that could have been a little bit careful as well. Nicholas Buchanos in the GTPs coming into the pits as well, so he will hold on, and it's just enough time there. Now Lars Olsen as well. Just got 5 drivers in the GTPs left to pit. You just saw a couple of them, but you're still riding this battle. I'm really curious now. JD has the lead. He has a real good chance here. It's crazy to think about. JD Rodriguez is a 4K driver. According to iRacing, he's on the line to gain 100 iRating as a 4K driver. Adam's response there says it all.
Yeah, basically, it's really hard to gain iRating in iRacing when you're racing these official series, unless you're in really high splits and competitive splits. For a 4K driver to earn a 100 iRating, that just tells you that a lot of the drivers are in this in his class are much higher iRating than him. So this is a great opportunity for JD Rodriguez. Even if he doesn't win this race, I think he's going to be happy with the gains he's making on his driver profile today.
I don't think they look for these races to gain iRating. We always talk about Valenteus. He's gained the 9K iRating about 3 times in these IMSA vintage races, and this is all he races. He doesn't want to drive that modern day fandangled cars and all the machinery nowadays. He loves the old stuff, and this is what he likes. But you think about it, the car numbers, did you see Seamus Power 14? He's got the 14th highest iRating in this split. So you think of those numbers. Car 1, car 4, car 5, car 7, all in the GTOs. JD Rodriguez is car 20 just for that. Half of that Audi field is in the top 10 of iRacing out there today.
And Seamus has come to the pits, I believe, so this is him in 5th position from the lead. So he has 10 seconds up the road to Toka Hisada, who is yet to pit. Reed, Wells, Grau, and Hisada have yet to pit ahead of Seamus Power and Nick Lucanos.
All right, Jack David Spickett, unfortunately, has pulled the car off as well. Didn't see anything happen to him. I did see that he just came in. I do wonder if it's just a little... Oh, no, he blew the engine. He actually blew the engine. I just went look back at that. He had an engine blow. Valenteus still battling as well. Everybody is in the pits for the GTP. Last man to pit was Jacob Reed as we were looking. So it's going to be interesting to see who makes a jump. Seamus Power will jump all of them, of course. But this is Valenteus still looking for an opportunity just to keep with them. And he will keep with them. But he doesn't want to do anything crazy.
He knows that if he can stretch this field, he can go longer than the other drivers, so he's definitely not trying to put any pressure on these guys. So it's going to be interesting. Jacob Reed has yet to come into the pits. Seamus Power, the first of our pitters, 12 seconds now ahead of Lucanos, who's 6 seconds ahead of Jack Wells. So Jacob Reed trying to stretch that field just one lap longer, as we see Valenteus making sure that the GTP doesn't cause him any issues. Just moving over, letting him go by as he continues to race his own strategy out here today.
And we say GTOs, hold your racing line, GTPs will get around. There is also those moments just on those crossover sections of the track where the GTOs can dictate where cars have to go. And that was one of those moments, JD making sure that the car is not going to go for a very high-risk, low-reward overtake. He's just going to keep it safe. Jacob Reed coming up behind these drivers. There he is in the green and yellow car. I would put my money on him going for a pit stop right now. A late move! Oh my word, a late move there. On to JD Rodriguez, and if he comes into the pits now, I think it's clear he's using that for a toilet stop. Here comes the move. No, it's Lundberg into the pits.
Interesting. And also Jacob Reed, so that was, I was going to say, that's a very in-lap move to make, and that was exactly what happened. So Lundberg into the pits. He's going to be the first of our top 3 to take to the pit box. Valenteus still within 4/10 of JD Rodriguez, so still easily within the draft pack. Seamus Power was 38 seconds back of Jacob Reed when Jacob's pit stop started. So he's in a good position to inherit the lead again.
He will, but the question is, what's the gap? And we're looking, most of these guys doing 50 seconds in the pits. If Jacob Reed's managed to save some time, he's probably looking to try and jump Mecanos here. And I think he's actually going to jump Nicholas Mecanos. 45 seconds in the pits, 46. Starts to run, the gap 7 seconds. Look at that. He has absolutely shed half of that time on Seamus. 6 seconds. He wasn't even in second. No. He has managed to gain almost 6 seconds on Mecanos. What a move that is from Jacob Reed. I think you're right. That was an in-lap move.
So did he short fuel it? Because I believe
yes.
he gained about 10 seconds in the pits.
3 seconds. It's about 3 to 4 seconds less in the pits than he did for anyone else. Sorry to interrupt.
But also his in-lap was quite rapid too. So just quite a bit of time gain there. Here we see Valenteus tucked in very closely behind JD Rodriguez, and the fact that Lundberg came into the pits and Valenteus didn't lose any time and was able to be this close to the back of JD Rodriguez makes me think that we are not seeing Valenteus' true pace tucked in behind these guys at all.
And I'm surprised. You'd think right now that JD may look to make an overtake here, because now you've got half of the GTO field in the pits or have pitted. And you've got to feel that usually you would go for a reaction here. If the guy you're racing with pits and you're in a bunch, surely the go-to is pit next to him. Because the gap between JD and Noel Lundberg right now is 34 seconds. Cone to cone, Noel was 36.9 seconds. That just goes to show, unless JD's going to do less fuel, he may lose this position and may lose the slipstream.
We know that Valenteus is going for the less fuel strategy because he's been fuel saving behind these leaders for the last 10 minutes. The question is JD going to come into the pits this time? No, he's not, so he's going along as well. So JD has accepted I believe that Noah Lundberg has a strategy that's going to give him the undercut. So he's going to commit to the go long strategy, and so is Valenteus. The question is, does Valenteus, now that he knows that JD's committing to the go long strategy, is this the pace Valenteus wants to run? And if the answer is no, we'll see Valenteus go for a move this lap.
I wouldn't be surprised if he does go for this move. It could be interesting. You've got to feel they're up to 50 minutes of driving right now. This is usually that moment where that GTO, it's starting to find the reserve fuel tank that the car doesn't have. It only has one fuel tank. So it's starting to really look for that reserve, starting to just find what it can before it starts sucking on the air in the tank. So JD is at his limit. Valenteus is at his limit. One of these cars will come into the pit this time, if not next time. The question is it going to be now Valenteus decides, you know what? I've had enough. Adam absolutely called it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, absolutely. Valenteus knows that his pace is better than JD, even if he wants to save the fuel. The question is he going to come into the pits this time? The answer is no, neither is JD, and that's what I expected for both of them. They're both going to go around again, but Valenteus thinking to himself, the pace isn't high enough, JD, I got to go.
This is Peloton. This is Peloton right now. If you watch Tour Cycling, this is the Peloton. He realizes what he's got to do. He realizes the numbers. He's probably looking at the numbers as well.
Yeah,
and what are those? Yeah. What are those numbers? What are those numbers? Noah Lundberg is 34.5 seconds. Remember, cone to cone for him was 36.9. Shortest pit stop today, Mickey Friesen, 35.1. He's actually a second and a half behind Noah Lundberg. And that was the man that was fighting for the race. Keep your eyes on that later in the race.
Absolutely. So Valenteus, he's got to decide when he's going to come into the pits, because he might not be able to stretch it as long as he actually wanted, because he needs to give himself time to make up that gap to Noah Lundberg, unless he thinks he can short fuel that amount. And that wouldn't surprise me if he can. He was hanging out behind those two for 10 laps, and we know that his raw pace is faster than the 2 leaders. So I believe he's probably got about 2 laps extra of fuel in the tank. So it's entirely possible that he can come in and just short fuel and absolutely destroy Lundberg. And that's what I'm expecting is going to happen. But he isn't going to be sure about that until he hits his box. And so it's going to be an interesting thing. Here comes JD Rodriguez into the pits to try and put a challenge to Noah Lundberg. But like you said, he's lost about 2 seconds, and he's got an unfortunate pit box in order to take that.
Yeah, this is actually going to be quite interesting. Del Olmo, Trengarade, Van Hicks, Krell, Lesniak, other drivers yet to pit. In fact, Trengarade coming to the pits as well. So that now is down to just 5 men or 5 drivers not in the pit. Van Hicks will come on by. Krell's going to come on by. But the number we want to look at is this man, Noah Lundberg. He was in control of the race with JD. And in fact, it's a short pit stop for Rodriguez because he's got to then also take the long pit lane. Lesniak will come on by. Where is Noah Lundberg? Hello, JD Rodriguez. It's going to get ahead of them, and he's going to get ahead of them by 2 seconds.
That's exactly, very interesting. I mean, he was hanging out behind Noah Lundberg for most of the race, but JD goes off track on the exit. And this is going to allow Noah Lundberg to close the gap. All that work that JD did to save fuel and to take that time at the pits, it's all gone.
It's all gone, but what does that mean as well for Valenteus? Because that means Valenteus has just got a little bit of a gap there he can work with, and these two have to be careful. If they start battling now with 17 minutes left in the race, Mickey Friesen's right behind, and we know what Mickey can do. He will pounce at the last moment if he has to. He's really catching up to them right now. Keep eyes on those timing towers. I'll be keeping an eye on those numbers. You're not missing anything in the GTPs. Closest battle is Timothy Reed and Togo Hisada once again, but Jacob cannot split that 5.5 seconds that we saw when he came out the pits.
All right, so at this point, if you are JD Rodriguez or Noah Lundberg, you have to think to yourself, okay, who among us is fastest? Which of us is the fastest driver right now? And you need to let that person lead. I know it seems counterintuitive, but with the GTOs, you definitely can maintain the gap. So you want the fastest driver in the lead of the race, trying to pull as much time on Valenteus as possible, because the only way you're going to have a chance at the victory here today is if you stay connected to him or in his draft when he exits the pits. Otherwise, it's game over.
Well, we can't see who was the fastest last time by because Rodriguez was on an outlap. Lumbo did a 16.4. Friesen with a 16.6. I know he's not here, but there may come a time that they have to NASCAR Super Speedway this and have 3 men working together. That might be the case. They might need to rely on Friesen. It sounds crazy, but they might need him. He may just have to try and pick it up. That's a mistake from Rodriguez. That held up Lundberg. Now, that's not what they wanted to see, because Valenteus is in the pits. And it's interesting. He's in the pits while these guys are at Moss. I don't think he's got the lead.
I do. I think Valenteus has got the lead because he's going to be able to jump off the jacks and get going very quickly. Let's see what happens here. He's rolling now, just as they're coming into the S's. I think he's going to have the lead by 2 to 3 seconds.
Well, hang on. We know it's 36 seconds, and he is 31, 32, 33 seconds, 34, 35, 34.5 seconds cone to cone. It is the shortest. It's a second faster than Rodriguez. It's 2 seconds faster than Lundberg. Adam makes me eat my words. He has put 4 seconds on JD Rodriguez.
Absolutely. He's going to have a little bit of time to get those tires up to temperature, so he's going to be a little slow this lap, but by the time it shakes out, it's probably going to be around 3 seconds. And Andreas Valenteus with 3 seconds of a gap, there's no catching the man unless he makes a mistake.
Well, let's knock on wood. I don't think he's going to make a mistake, but you just never know out there today. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. You can see he says it's P2. That's not an error because Van Hicks is the last man to pit. And we are waiting to see what the champion does. He's not in this fight. In fact, he may go down to about P8 when he, or P7, sorry, when he comes into the pit. Might have a bit of an issue though as Seamus Power comes on by, but we're watching Lundberg, we're watching JD Rodriguez, Van Hicks is going out one more time. These two are going to have to keep on battling. They don't really want to battle, they want to keep up the Valenteus. I think they've conceded the fact that Valenteus is in the lead.
Absolutely. Unless Valenteus makes a mistake, there's no catching him. He had the pace on the two of them by about a quarter of a second over the course of the rest of this race. So this is now a battle for second for the two of them, and they pretty much knew that as soon as they weren't able to pull away from Valenteus and he was able to save the fuel. There was maybe a chance that he would make a mistake into the pits or out of the pits or get caught up in an accident, but at this stage, might as well duke it out with each other because there's no catching that man ahead of you.
But if they duke it out a bit too much, there's a little man, I think he's a tall man actually, there's a little GTO in the background called Mickey Friesen. That gap is 1.5. Lepisto goes around in the background. That looks like he's had some big damage as well. He was in a battle. In fact, I was talking about Mickey Friesen. He had to avoid Mickey Friesen.
Mickey Friesen had to avoid that incident, so now he's lost a second and a half to Lundberg and Rodriguez, so he's going to have to try and claw that back. And with 13 minutes to go and the pace that he was running, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for him. So up at the front of the GTP field, it's Seamus Power and Jacob Reed, and Jacob Reed has the fastest lap on the day so far. And the gap is underneath 5 seconds for the first time since they came out of the pits. A little bit deep. There goes JD Rodriguez. JD not with the consistency that Noel's looking for. He's going to want to make a pass on them soon. But Jacob Reed, he has an opportunity to catch Seamus Power on Rob Pace. And if he can gain half a second a lap, he'll have the opportunity to be there by the time we get to battle with Seamus Power. It's going to need to be more like a second a lap.
Yeah, he got a little bit lucky because Seamus got held up going into Moss, and Jacob did not get held up into Moss, so managed to gain some time, but he's going to get held up going through the S's. These guys almost getting caught up by Serato out there today, and just holding on by the Piso. Did come into the pits, of course, with that damage. His day looks to be done as well, so we're down to 11 GTPs. Here is that replay, and I think this was just him not anticipating. See, Jacob does have to, Mickey, sorry, does have to go back on the racing line to do the braking there. I think that was just a miscommunication.
Yeah, it was Lepisto committed at the same time as Mickey, and at that point, Lepisto would need to hit the brakes and try and find an alternate line. It didn't work out. Here we see Noel Lundberg trying to go around the outside. Unfortunately, this stage in the race, there's just too much gravel, too much dirt on the outside of that track. The developing track that we have here now in iRacing with the debris that gets picked up and the marbles, it does get on your tires. It does affect you. So unfortunately, that means that Noel Lundberg did not have the traction to make it around the outside there. There is Joran Van Hicks from the lead of the race, finally relinquishing that to Valenteus. It's now 5 seconds between Valenteus and Rodriguez. So it's still maintaining that gap, but Valenteus definitely doesn't need to push to win this race.
He doesn't need to push it. Just a note on Van Hicks, by the way. 31.5 was the pit time cone to cone. That was 5 seconds quicker than Trengarade. He's managed to jump Trengarade. He's 3 seconds behind Javier Del Olmo. He might be able to make a move. And we've also got this battle. I mentioned it about 5 minutes ago. It's still happening. It's Timothy Reed on Togo Hisada. What can the Japanese driver try and do on a week that could be very interesting in the whole of Japan? News happening in the sumo. Be nice to have some news of a Japanese driver getting some victories out in sim racing.
Absolutely. Togo Hisada and Timothy Reed have been inseparable this entire race, even before the pit stops, and here they are battling once again through turn 1 and now dipping into turn 2. That downhill braking zone is such a challenge for GT machines, but not these prototypes. These gigantic wings have all the aero in the world and can run laps just as fast as F1 cars at Silverstone. Impressive stuff from these 80s machines, and in fact they're complete beasts to drive with stick shifts and everything. The turbo lag that used to be on this car in the sim has since been resolved, and it's now a little bit easier to control, but those rear tires, still an older compound, not as soft as the modern day tires. It's hard to get all that power down to the ground. These things are such a challenge to drive, and that's part of why these drivers love them.
And we saw it already with Mick Claridge losing it on the exit of Moss. I think we saw another driver lose it on the exit of Moss. Getting that power down fast is tough around here. And even just on the exit there at White, you saw Timothy Reed make a mistake. We're on board with Togo Hisada. We're not on his stream today, but he does like to post some of his clips from when he's racing, and just to show the hard racing and driving he has to commit. He's got seatbelts on his rig. That just goes to show that he knows he's going to have to really throw it in, and a good little move there from Reed. It does not work. He's gone too wide. Hisada's going to come there. Side by side they go. Down into before Moss it goes. Around the outside will be Hisada. Gets it clean. Reed will now go on the attack because that's a compromised line from Hisada, but that's also a mistake from Timothy Reed.
Yeah, absolutely. Tried to take the outside line into Moss, and that outside to inside transition, I've tried it myself. Even in the GTOs, which has the all-wheel drive, it's nearly impossible to keep the car straight trying to make that transition, especially with the gravel, the debris that we have now in iRacing. It would be even more challenging. Noah Lundberg, who's got 8 minutes to try and get second position away from JD Rodriguez. Mickey Friesen has not been able to recover any of the time that he lost in that incident where he got hit in the back just a little bit. He's still 3 seconds back of these drivers, so these two are free to battle. And a good run from Lundberg, but is it too early of a good run? He's going to have to go to the outside. This has not worked the last couple times unless he can get an overspeed and pass JD before the corner, and that's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. You stay there free to fight, just like Ferrari strategies in the Ferraman. JD Rodriguez car there is trying to do it. A bit of a slide there from Noah Lundberg. Hold on. Mechanos is going to be the next car to come by. He waits for the moment. These two fighting. I know you were saying Friesen's not been able to gain any of the time. He gained 3/10 last lap. He's going to gain more time this lap. In fact, he has gained 7 attempts this time. The gap is 2.6. 7 minutes left in the race. That sounds not a lot. That is still 6-7 laps for these drivers. Do not say never, and do not say it's over because the lady hasn't started singing yet. Another moment there from Lundberg right on the back. That's going to be more time Friesen gets.
Absolutely, both of them a little bit disenfranchised by the GTP coming through. That's going to give another 2/10 to Friesen, who's going to just be heads down trying to put in the fastest laps of his day so far. Here's Ove Trangarade in a nice battle with Joran Van Hicks. Oh my goodness, they get tucked in behind Brendan Lim. That's going to be Joran Van Hicks having to put on the brakes quite a bit to avoid sending Brendan Lim around. It's so easy to spin out a GTV by making contact with the rear. Don't ask me how I know. Ove Trangarade now trying to make that move and get ahead of Van Hicks. Here is Lundberg around the outside again of the S's. How many times is he going to try this? And it seems like it's going to be enough contact between the two of them. That's going to lose them even more time to Friesen behind. Friesen's gained a second this lap.
And a sorry straightaway from Lundberg. He realized he just got a little bit wide there, a little bit squirrely. The cut, the rear just kicked out of it. Trengarade was still watching this. He tried to go around the outside himself, and he could not hold it. He goes onto the grass. He's going to have to do that all over again, as is Noel Lundberg. He's going to have to try. But again, another 7-2. Whoa, that was close. Another 17-5 from these two drivers. A 16-7 from Mickey Friesen. 1.7 is the gap now between these two and Mickey.
All right, so Mickey Friesen looking for a podium. These two looking for second position, and they don't seem to know that he's behind. But look at this. Lundberg with a little bit of a juke there forces JD to the unenviable inside line. Can Lundberg get a good exit? They're going to be side by side. Friesen's there. He is there. He's within a second now. He's in the draft, and these two going side by side is going to make that draft even bigger. So Mickey Friesen's now a part of this battle, regardless of who maintains second position coming out of the S's.
And I think it might be JD. Got a little bit wide due to a GTP coming by. There is some overlap, but they keep fighting. It's not going to work. Lundberg's going to try this again. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, shame on Mickey. He's right behind them now. And these three are going to pick this battle up with 5 minutes to go in the race. I think these two may have realized that their fighting has been fun, but fun has repercussions. And that repercussion is the number 16.
Hit 3 on your keyboard, Mickey Friesen. Say thank you to these two that they allowed you back into this battle. Noel Lundberg cannot get the pass done on JD. You can see Mickey Friesen just being cautious with Laust Olsen and the other GTPs. A little bit of contact there. It's going to send Noel Lundberg sliding. He's going to fall back a little bit. That was from Laust Olsen where that contact came from. This is going to allow Mickey Friesen to tuck in right in behind Noel Lundberg. They're down about a second and a half now from JD Rodriguez. And look at this, Lundberg off track. This forces Friesen to try and go by. Otherwise, he's going to lose completely the draft from Rodriguez. And they have 2 seconds now is the gap. And Friesen isn't going to be able to get the job done on Lundberg. He's going to have to fall in behind. These two now battling for third position, second out of reach with 4 minutes to go unless they can make up speed. Ove Trangarade also tucking into the back there of Van Hicks. Can't quite get it done this time. He's going to try and go to the inside. He is. Will be able to hold the inside through the S's.
Should be able to. There's damage on the back of Van Hicks's car all of a sudden. They're going to try and go 3 wide very shortly there with Seamus Power, the leader, going by, taking a bit of a risk. But he manages to hold on. And now you start to see there's a chance here. But no, he can't hold it. A twitch there. That's a loss of aero. I don't know what's happened to Van Hicks, but you can just see in the picture there, that rear wing is folded. It has had some damage. Not sure what has happened out there for Johan.
And the left rear looks a little low, possibly some suspension damage on the rear end for Van Hicks, which is slowing him down. So unfortunately for him, you can see just how much time he's losing to Ove Trangarade, who's running away here. That car not feeling good for Van Hicks. We're taking a look at Mickey Friesen once again, who has lost a little bit of time to Noel Lundberg as Lundberg tries to run his way back up to catch up to JD Rodriguez. 3 minutes to go in this race. Seamus Power 6 seconds ahead of Jacob Reed, who has not been able to close that gap. He's lost about a second and a half since his pit stop. Nick Mikado 7.5 back in third position. In the lead of the GTOs, it's Valenteus up the field 8.5 seconds from JD Rodriguez. He's gained 3.5 seconds since the pit stop. Noel Lundberg trying to recover from that incident that just happened with Laust Olsen and Mickey Friesen in hot pursuit trying to get a podium.
Yeah, I did look as well what happened to Van Hicks. He actually lost damage here. This is literally right before we went to them. And you can just see, I think he had a misshift. He did. A little bit of a misshift, and Trangarade was unable to see it, cannot react in time. He went into the back. There was nothing malicious about it as such. It was just one of those moments, and Van Hicks kind of did the hitting yourself in the toe moment there, which is very tough to see. So unfortunate for him. He's going to keep on fighting. But what can you do when you're down on that top speed a little bit? He is going to be suffering in the straights. Excuse me, he's going to have to hurt. Yeah, go on.
I will say, Craig, that is the most common place for a misshift from the Audis on the entire calendar. I'm surprised that that's the first one we've seen today, to be honest with you. So it's unfortunate that Trangrade got some damage from that, and that so did Van Hicks. But amazing that there haven't been more Audis making that misshift. I know that it's fallen afoul of me quite a few times. Look at this, Van Hicks trying to make a move up the inside of Trangrade, but that shorter line does not lead to a good exit onto the Andretti straight. He's going to lose a couple tenths here and have to gain it back in the draft.
He's not going to gain it in the draft. He's not going to gain it in the draft because he's matching the speed. He's only just now a couple of kilometers an hour faster, miles an hour faster, so he's unable to. And when the finally gets the overspeed, he is right at the corner. Nothing he can do right now. He has to rely on being able to try and do this on the cornering speed, and that is so tough around here with a minute to go. They've got another lap after this to go by. As to the rest of the field, we just missed Serrato taking the fastest lap of the race, which was very good, but then he takes one of the slowest laps of the race. But one thing to mention, Serrato was not able to break the 1 minute 2 barrier.
So Seamus Power, he's going to be entering his final lap next time by. Timothy Reed in this battle for 8th position with Togo Hisata still can't seem to get his way by. And Mickey Friesen is still within half a second of Noah Lundberg for that last podium position, but he can't seem to close that gap. So a lot of the battles, just drivers who are desperate to get by. Oh, Timothy Reed is going to take a little bit of a rally line through that corner. He's going to save the car, but lose time.
Very weird. I think the rear just kicked on him, trying to take a bit too much speed down into Quebec, but manages to hold it. But that could be all she wrote for his battle. This is interesting. Van Hicks, he is going to try and do what he can. Not a lot he can do. Friesen is on the back of Lundberg. Lundberg trying to catch up to JD Rodriguez as well. But Van Hicks trying to push on here. They'll see the white flag very shortly. Seamus has only got a few corners left to go. He's on the Andretti straightaway one more time. Van Hicks has to find a way through. It's going to be tough, though.
These two have one more lap to go. Seamus Power has 3 more corners to go. Seamus Power has been in a dominant position this entire race. A fantastic qualifying has led to him being able to escape with the lead. Jacob Reed was battling with him for his time, but could not maintain it. Seamus Power, what a finish for him. He's going to come home and win here at Mosport in the first 70-minute race in years. Fantastic race from Seamus.
Not just only that, but you've got to think as well, he's managed to be a champion in iRacing, a world champion in Jacob Reed. That is not something to just shake home at. That's a fantastic performance for him. McCannis will get that P3, and I have to just report that battle we were looking at for the final podium spot in the GTOs. Mickey Friesen went onto the grass coming into Moss. Valenteus went last and first, and you wouldn't know it with a 9-second gap. It's been dominance today for him. He has held that since he got it, and it was fantastic. Rodriguez will hold on just to P2, and Lundberg will take P3, and Van Hicks finally gets around. Oh. They come together and they slide together. Now they're going to get it under control. Traeger gets by Van Hicks. We're going to keep an eye on what's going to happen to Schuster. Van Hicks can't stop the car. He can't get the car control, and Schuster's going to take that P7, or Lesniak may even take that P8.
Van Hicks finally gets going. He's going to come around the final corner with hot tires and escape losing P8, but what a heartbreak for Van Hicks there. He just tried to close the door on Traeger. Traeger still had his nose in there, and it led to that spin. But Valenteus, the story of the day, last to first, and he did it before they even got to the pits. He could have done it before they got to the pit stops, but decided to save fuel instead and secure his victory. Seamus Power winning in the GTPs, Valenteus in the GTOs. That was a very, very interesting race, Craig. Let's take us down to the results. As we said, it is Seamus Power who took the win in the GTPs over the champion Jacob Reed, who was 8.5 seconds back. Nick McConas, another 8 seconds back of Reed, down in 3rd position, followed closely by Jack Wells, only 1.5 seconds back of him. Farron Grau comes home in 5th position, with Fernando Serrato saying the fastest and the slowest laps of the day back-to-back. In 6th position, Togo Hisata stays ahead of Timothy Reed for 7th with Fried in 8th. Laus Olsen, a tough day for him as far as getting caught up in trouble. He still finishes in the top 10 in 9th position. Brendan Lim, the first driver 1 lap down. I believe he's the only driver left who was able to get a good finish. AJ Roper also finished, but then the rest of the drivers did not. Antti Lupisto, Logan Edwards, Mick Claridge, and Arto Iamaki.
Now for the GTOs, the stats are true. This puts him on his own in 5th in overall wins on the broadcast of Valenteus in the GTO category. A fantastic win for him with Jader Rodriguez behind 9 seconds, who held off the late lunge from Noah Lundberg, who finishes in 3rd. Mickey Friesen, that pit stop really worked for him, but it will be 4th today, and Javier Del Olmo will be 5th. Ove Trengerade will take 6th, and Andreas Schuster will take 7th. They managed to get past Jan Van Hicks, who had that moment at the end, who will finish in 8th, and then Lesniak will be 9th. Daniel Kell will round out the top 10 in 10th, and then it's Josh Brain in 11th, Martin Krajcik in 12th, Fabian Jumblov in 13th. They all did drive on, but Jack David Spickett, unfortunately, he blew the engine at the S's, and he's the only retiree in the GTOs today.
We have our winner, Seamus Power, here to talk to us in the GTPs. Seamus, what a finish. What a race you had today. It was an amazing strength of field with so many past champions in this race today. It seemed like a hard race out there, but you had the pace to beat them all from qualifying on in. How'd you do it?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, when I passed the line, I was just like hooting and hollering to myself. Oh, man, where do I start? I mean, the track, I guess. Mosport, I love Mosport so much, especially in these cars. I've always had pace here, I think, earlier seasons in IMSA Vintage. So it's always, I always get the flow of the track and the traffic interactions. So I think that was 1. 2, I think I only fine-tuned my setup a little bit from the last time we were here, honestly, but I think it helped a lot. Mostly gearing out of Moss and stuff, so that really helped a lot. And then, yeah, it's one of my favorite tracks, so I just loved being here and racing hard. And yeah, it was a fantastic experience, and I'm so happy I managed to get a win out of it.
With a 4K strength of field in the GTOs, did it feel any different going through the GTOs in this high of a caliber of split versus when we have our large splits? And how does that affect your mentality when you're going into the race and as you're racing around here?
Yeah, absolutely. I was a little disappointed at Split, honestly. I always love me some IMSA Vintage Camel Chaos. So I was a little disappointed, but I think it might have helped me out in the end. Yeah, it is definitely a different approach. Some of the earlier races in the week, there were a lot of it was a lower strength of field with the Audi field as well, and it was a lot more unpredictable. So a lot of times I would really have to get on the brakes hard, you know, avoid some Audis that were doing some unexpected lines and moves. But so this time around, yeah, with the high strength of field that the Audi drivers that pretty much all of them know at this point, it was really easy to kind of predict what they were going to do each corner, when they were going to track out wide, or when they were going to try and move over early. And that really made it easy for me to kind of, yeah, see the flow of the track way better than I think if we did have a 55 car chaos going on. But it was still a lot of fun at the end of the day.
We were also bummed in the booth to see it split. Even we also enjoyed the IMSA Vintage Chaos, and having 2 splits definitely leads to a different strategy. What was your strategy coming into the race as far as the pit stop was concerned, and did that change?
No, not really. I think my main goal, based off of some of the races earlier in the week, was to, well, try and qualify as best as possible. I think this is one of few tracks where I feel like I have super good qualifying pace compared to a lot of other tracks we run that I'm terrible at qualifying but then have race pace. So that was priority 1, definitely. Number 2 was just if I did manage to get on pole, or if I was at least near the front of the grid, try and get into clean air as quickly as possible. I know from experience, and I'm sure so many other drivers will say the same, is that dirty air here is really tough to try and recover from. You know, puts more wear on the tires, and you're really, if you're behind someone, you're really counting on traffic to sort of have those passing opportunities. So if I was gonna start out either ahead, in front, or high up the order, I was gonna push as hard as possible at the start to either create a gap, so you know, stop someone being in my draft at least, or to get ahead. So I was happy to get on pole. And then the fuel stop, no, it was really just a case of, okay, I want to pit around about the halfway mark. That's where I'm happy with tire degradation and everything. And yeah, it just sort of hit when it felt right. I will say Jacob definitely gave me a scare when after he pit, he came out the pits about 4.5 seconds behind me, which was I was like, oh, okay, I need to really focus now and try and build up a gap again. But yeah, no, it was so much fun.
Well, a little bit of a insight into the mind of a victor here. Next week, we go from one of the most comfortable and familiar tracks to everyone in the series to one of the least familiar in Algarve. What is your thoughts heading into that race?
I like Algarve as a track. I don't think I've run it with IMSA Vintage yet. So I don't know. I think I have. It's interesting. The traffic interaction is pretty. There's a lot of slow areas where things can get pinched up. So yeah, I don't know what my pace is going to be, but I'll definitely show up. And I think this is probably going to be the high watermark of the season for me. But I'll give it my best shot and look forward to it.
Well, quite a high watermark it is. Seamus Power winning the GTP race. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Oh, just the usual. Like, obviously, the community. It was super fun race. Absolute blast. Of course, as always, you guys here in the booth. Fantastic job with the broadcast. I'm really looking forward to watching this one back for obvious reasons. But and then yeah, everyone else that was sort of tagging along or watched along was fantastic. Thanks.
Well, that was Seamus Power, our winner in the GTPs, and that is going to close us out for today's raid. We want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the IMSA Vintage community for bringing us on for another season, and thank you to the team today, Craig, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure you do actually check out our social media website and merchandise store, but don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel here so you don't miss a moment on GSRC. Next race for these drivers is going to be Algarve International Circuit. That's next week. 40 minutes back to the sprint format. That's January 23rd at 12 p.m. Eastern. But next up here on GSRC is Grand Prix Legends at Oulton Park. That's tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern time, Sunday. Don't miss that one. It's going to be an interesting race at Oulton Park for sure. Don't miss the other upcoming races that are also here on your screen. And we hope you've enjoyed joining us today as much as we've enjoyed bringing this racing to you. And we hope to see you back again soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.